Right. Hey guys.
Hey guys, we got a special. Well, we are, and we have got a special guest because today is a collaboration between the Jn'l podcast and.
Omonyes Corner, back at it again. Period.
Yay! Exciting. I'm excited for this episode. I feel like I need not a non-heavy. Well, it could be heavy, but a non too much heavy one considering the last one we did.
Well, life is a combination of fun and heaviness, so I'm sure this podcast will reflect that in lots of ways as well. But yeah, I mean, this is my first time meeting you, so yeah, tell me a little bit about the journey with getting onto podcasting. We'll do the same.
Okay, cool. First of all, hi everyone that's listening. My name is Omye, and I have a podcast called Omonyes Corner. This will be coming out on my platform as well, which I'm really excited about. So I'm a first year medical student, and I started podcasting. Oh, that's such a good question. June of last year, June or July. It was kind of during the end of lockdown, I suppose, but I had nothing to do. A-levels were cancelled, and I just said, like, I want to have a creative outlet that doesn't involve people seeing my face on a regular basis. So I said, why not do podcasting? And I've always been involved in conversations. Well, not always, but for the past 2 years specifically, I've been involved in conversations surrounding race, surrounding what does it mean to be Black British. Took a while for me to even get to the label Black British in the first place. A very long time to get there, but I think I'm nearly there now. And just kind of issues surrounding that. Yeah, it took a while because I guess for context, let's start already for context. So where I went to school in South London, like everyone in my school, the majority of people, we were all Black, and specifically Black African, specifically Black West African. So like all Nigerians, Ghanaians, Jamaican, like those. It was never, when someone asked you where you were from, you were never like, I'm British. You were like, I'm Nigerian, I'm Ghanaian. That's how you differentiate. You would even differentiate by tribe, like I'm Igbo, I'm Yoruba, so on and so forth. So it was like, that was always my experience. So then coming into sixth form, into a slightly more diverse space, I would say a slightly broader space, I found questioning that identity of what it means to be British and all of that stuff. But yeah, that's just a bit about me. Cheeky intro.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I think you and Louise are going to vibe a lot because like I caught up with the podcast. I mean, that's the first time I'm meeting you, and just how you spoke about getting into like political conversations with like starting it within the morning, despite your friends not getting into it. Louise was the same. We're going to get on to you guys' Vampire Diaries. So I feel like you guys are going to be vibing on a lot of stuff here. Yeah, so Louise and I, for your listeners, I think when everything was happening with Black Lives Matter last year, Louise, me, and my dad, my other brother, and just occasional other guests and things, just started, basically we thought like we have so much to say about this, and we as a family like to have these kind of conversations, and we thought why not put it out there, and we would start making some videos. We really enjoyed making them. Like obviously there were difficult topics at times as well, but we just enjoyed having that space to just have a really open dialogue about everything, and then I really enjoyed it, so I said to Louise, look, I've been wanting to do something like this for a while.
Your plan,
will you be my co-host on
credit.
Well, you are. I couldn't do without you. You are the other half to it. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I needed you. Great. What's your? You want to explain how it's gone for us since we actually started, Louise?
Yes. When did we start? We did it first episode on January the 25th, I want to say, and since then I don't know.
That memory.
Yeah, I know. I do have an amazing memory. That's quite a big background. And now we're on episode, I want to say 18. I could definitely be wrong, but I feel like we've come a long way. Almost 20 episodes, and it's been really fun. It's been quite crazy. What were we on? Oh, we were on Katie Price. That was probably the sickest part of the whole podcast journey. But yeah, excited for more collaborations and just more episodes and just growing and talking to everyone who will listen.
Yeah, for our side of this, it's going to be a first in a new series called Minority Report. but we're basically going to get, like you were saying, typically it will be the Black British experience because that's kind of our sort of space. But you know, we have cousins in America and stuff like that. So we kind of just want to have it in where you have whoever the minority is in a majority space. So it could even be as nuanced as, like, for example, if you had a white person in your previous school, that might even be would be on it. So there's so many interesting conversations like hopefully we'll have today from there. But yeah, so let's go on and talk about where we're at right now. I mean, so you're studying medicine, right?
Medicine, yeah. So yesterday just did my last exam. So first year is basically over, which is crazy. But yeah, I'm glad.
Yeah, it must have been. My best mate, he's been trying to get into medicine for, well, he did biomed, is it biomed? And then worked for a year, then went to computer science, applied one more time while doing that, and got in finally. And he's moved up with his boyfriend, and they like moved all the way to like
Newcastle.
And he's now in first year. So I know first year medicine is crazy. But how's, you know, you can tell us a bit more, like, how's that been during COVID? I know it's quite a hands-on course.
Yeah, I mean, I never experienced anything like it in my life. I mean, I know university is supposed to be like that big stepping stone going into the big wide world, so on and so forth. But yeah, it was crazy for me. I mean, getting into medicine in the first place was always a challenge and something I'm passionate about talking about because of the lack of representation in that space. It's not easy at all. And when you don't see people who look like you or don't see people who have the same experiences as you going into that field, it's really difficult, actually, harder than you sometimes expect. I mean, I'm from a Nigerian family. You're of the school of get up, like, it's time to go, let's go, like, do the exam, prepare for the interviews, like what
all the extra tutoring stuff every Saturday, weekends.
Yeah, like literally, I mean, it was a constant kind of like get on with it. So I think when I got into year 12, my first term of year 12 was really, really difficult for me because I was kind of in a new environment, had left my secondary school. I'd been for 5 years, but I was used to, like, we knew how everything functioned. And to a degree, when I was there, everything in my life wasn't about education. It was about friends, it was about banter, it was about a community experience, I suppose. Some of us had known each other, went to primary school together, we'd known each other 10 years. So then coming into an environment where I didn't know anyone, but everyone didn't know everyone either because it was just a sixth form, that was definitely a space for me where I remember entering the first term being like, what have I done? Like, I was actually okay where I was. Like, I could have really just stayed. And I was doing biology, chemistry, politics.
Oh, politics, throw that in the mix.
I mean, I've always loved, because I mean, medicine, you need biology, chemistry. You just need those two typically. You don't also need math. So kind of everyone else was on this maths route, but I had said to my mom, like, there's one thing I want. I'm going to do the medicine, but there's one thing I want from this sixth form experience. Like, I want to actually study this thing that I'm already interested in.
Yeah.
So I did politics as well, which I really, really enjoyed. But I found that getting to the end of the first term of sixth form, it was the only thing I enjoyed, to be brutally honest. I didn't enjoy biology. I detested chemistry. And by the end of the year, I was saying I was going to do politics and international relations as my degree.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was done with the meds. It was a wrap for me. I said, y'all can have this. I'm done personally. Then that December, I kind of went to Nigeria, seeing the family, catching up with everybody, and kind of speaking to everyone about what it was that I wanted to do. And I kind of realized that I didn't not want to do medicine because I actually didn't want to do it. I was stopping myself because I felt like it wasn't it wasn't for me. It was like, this is something other people do. This is not something that Omonyes does. But then I came back with kind of a renewed zeal, I guess. And I was like, okay, let's do this thing. And I have 3 really amazing friends who we all kind of went on the medicine journey together. And yeah, I took a long time, but I got there. This whole year has been online. I only went in once. So that was fascinating. We went in for 1 day for like clinical skill stuff. So like learning how to do injections, blood pressure, all the like cheeky basics. But yeah, everything's been online. And it's weird because my mum is also studying law at the same time as me. So we're both like doing online school, and my dad's like working in the study, like just doing work, my sister's at school. So like everyone there's kind of a studying atmosphere going on type of thing. So yeah, that's what I've been doing for the past 1 year, I guess. Yeah, ready for second year, to be honest.
Have you made any friends from uni?
You see, this is the thing. I mean, I communicate with people like, oh, hey, how you doing? Like, how did you find this? How did you find that? But there's not been any like, oh, do you want to go out here? Do you want to go? Do you know that kind of thing? Like, I wouldn't say I've established any particular friendships. But I think what I found in the past maybe year since the pandemic and all of that stuff is like I have a group of people that I talk to every single day, 2-3 people, and that's it. And I'm okay with that. Like I'm at a stage in my life, I'm very comfortable with my own company. It sounds bad, but it's like,
no, it's not. I'm so there as well. So like, yeah.
Like sometimes it's too, every day talking is too much. Like everyone should just calm down. So I'm good with like my company, as long as I have orange juice, biscuits, and there's a good TV show like that, you never go wrong with me. I'm fine. But yeah, no, the social aspect has definitely been a challenge. Yeah, and also that in coming into that environment of medicine. I mean, people say it's competitive, but you don't really get it until you're there. You don't feel it until you're there, because when I was younger, when I was in secondary school, I was very used to consistently like doing very, very well, being there, being with it. Then when I got to sixth form, I almost came to a realization of acceptance that like being in the middle, being average was okay for me. Like it was actually fine. It never bothered me. So then coming into university, what you find is that a lot of most medical students are aiming for the top all the time. And that just hasn't been my experience over the past 2 years. So now to come back into an environment where everyone is ready to like, they want it all and they know it all, can be intense for me sometimes. I find it really, really difficult. But I also have to remember to remove myself at some points and be like, okay, it's not every group chat that you need to join. It's not every message that you need to read. And just that thing of like, you know, right after the exam when everyone's like, so how did you find it, guys? And I'm just like, pause, take time, let it marinate. But yeah, I feel like I just waffled a lot there. But yeah, that's the first year's been,
Good stuff, it's good stuff.
Yeah, we would have resonated with a lot of that, I think, especially what you're saying about, so I did an undergrad, worked for a year, and now I'm doing a complete conversion. So I went from 4 years of engineering, working in a year in like tech stuff, and then now I'm doing psychology as a conversion, so completely different. But yeah, so much what you said there resonated, like wanting to make friends, but kind of, operating through group chats, and then you got really keen people in group chats that are like saying, I've read this, I've done that, and you're like, oh, I should be doing that, because you've got nothing to compare to, right? Because like you don't really get a sense of what people are actually doing, so you just want to do the most, especially when it's something completely new. Like for you, medicine is never going to be exactly the same as A levels. For me, this was a completely different career thing. So like, it gets so you have to tell yourself like, no, stop, like realize what you actually can do. And I had a group chat of a couple of friends where that we kind of grounded each other and stuff like that, which was helpful. I mean, Louise, have you found?
Yeah, I feel really lucky right now. I got to have my first year experience, which was quite wild. To be fair, I'm not gonna lie, I did hate it, if I'm actually being honest. But only because I was particularly in a rough place, not because like the environment was bad or whatever. But I've loved second year. Like lockdown second year is when I found myself like I'm on the right path. I know what I want. I know who I want around me. And I know what I want to be doing. So second year is the year for me, and third year and every year after that.
I love that for you. I love that. So like, I don't know, that was just so wholesome. I was like, yeah, so nice.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure sometimes to go like you have to go to uni and then have the best time of your life immediately. And I kind
you
of
put that pressure on me. Don't.
Yeah. I said because
first year's gonna be your best year ever. Fuck that.
I just was really excited for you because you'd worked so hard in sixth form, like stressing yourself out, and I really wanted you to immediately like not necessarily have the best time ever, like in terms of what you did, but I wanted you to appreciate where you'd got and like reap the rewards of all your effort. But then you kind of in that like chronic stress state of I need to work. And so I was telling you to have fun because like
I text you and I'd be in the library and you were like, get out of the library now.
Yeah. Because that was me. Like I worked like our parents and the same as you were describing, work. And you know, you go to uni and you've kind of made it a little bit. And my course was 4 years as well, if I like kept passing and stuff. Like kind of similar to what you'll have in 5 years. And so I just took it to be like decompress. And it didn't mess me up or anything else. I was able to like get on track with everything. But I think it was kind of my like Neverland situation of like, let me finally just relax. Whereas Louise, I think you had your balance earlier and then got into this stress state. So it's just like different times, people, different nights, like, different times. But yeah.
Sure. I think that's so interesting though, that thing of like balance and working out what works best for you, because I'm not a particularly outdoor social person anyways. Like the whole going out for drinks and all of that stuff, like it was never going to be me anyway. So I feel comfortable in that, but also finding like small things to make my life easier. Like if it's just muting group chats, like I have to, because it's just sometimes it gets way too much. Instead of me focusing on, okay, what do I need to do? How do I need to approach it? And then moving on with it, you kind of get caught up in this, what is everyone else doing? How is everyone else coping? And like apart from updates, I don't need anything else from there. I don't need to know how other people felt about the exam. I don't like that information is becoming less. And it's becoming less and less important to me. And I think it serves me, my mental health way better to create those barriers between myself and the things that stress me out. So yeah.
I think we underestimate like how much we ground ourselves by social comparison, but it's like to a point, especially when you're saying like, for example, you're at school for a long period of time, whereby like you would have grown up in that, socialized yourself in that environment, and then from then you knew where you existed within that. But when it's completely new environment, you like are just completely like, okay, I need like frame of reference kind of thing. And without having that, and then you kind of look to everything or the internet, whatever else, and it kind of is hard to sort of fix your points. So it's tough, you know. But mental health is so important as well. And I'm curious to think how you've come about COVID in terms of physical health stuff and the mental health stuff from your like medical.
I mean, wow. Well, it's been a roller coaster. I'll say that. So when so the pandemic started last March. So when we were kind of coming into 2020, everything started good. I mean, my family, we moved homes. Everything was kind of exciting times. It was also like the depths of year 13, and we just kind of finished. I mean, someone needs to uncover that, unpack that, because that in itself, some people are traumatized and no one wants to talk about it, because year 13,
I have nightmares still.
It's so, and honestly, I can even say that we didn't even do our A-levels and it was still stressful. So I can only imagine what it must have been like. So, but that period of time, so when you apply for medicine, you're in the October deadline. So from kind of in 2019, from September to December, it was just a a pot of people being disappointed by their predicted grades, people getting offers, not getting offers. It was just a sea of endless comparison, and it was painful because it was like people were trying to work out, have you got an interview? Have you got an interview? Have you done that? Have you done that? And also not just students, as teachers as well. Like you felt that dynamic, them trying to work out, okay, who's got what, who's got this, who's got that. And it was difficult. And I think schools subliminally don't know that they play into this. Maybe they do know, I don't know, but they play into this thing of, okay, you've got the Oxbridge, group that they're really happy for and all of that stuff. Not potentially realizing the effect that it has on other people who potentially wanted to go to those places and don't have offers. So then kind of coming into the pandemic, I think from the beginning of March, I knew something was wrong. I always say this to everyone anywhere. I had a feeling that we were about to go into something crazy. Okay, so I remember when I knew it was crazy, so my school was in central London, was when I got on the train and it was empty, because I've never sat down on the train to school. So I knew there was a problem straight away. And people were saying, oh, we'll blow over in 2 weeks. We just remember the first thing was only supposed to be for 2 weeks.
Yeah, it'll be fine, guys.
Boris is just keeping us inside for 2 weeks. I say, you people, you don't pay attention, do you? You don't see what's happening in the rest of the world? You don't see that? So I was very already initially hygiene. I'm always that person that washes my hands when I come with public transport. I'm the hand sanitizer person. Like I'm not. Yeah. But when the toilet rolls started disappearing from the shops, my parents thought I was joking. They went to Asda. So yeah, then going into that lockdown, it was fun. I'm going to be honest. I personally enjoyed my lockdown experience. I know a lot of people found it really difficult. I think what was different for us is that us having moved, we had a lot more space as a family. So there was that ability for me to be able to go to my room and not have to speak to anyone if I didn't want to. Or that level, sometimes barriers are so important, especially as I'm getting older. Like I love my family, but I also really love my own space and my own time. So having that in a new space, which is such a privilege, is crazy, because I think people underestimate what it is for sometimes when you have a family in a really, really small environment. Like that tension that can build up can be so, so challenging. So I personally, I had a great lockdown experience. I played Ludo with my friends. Virtually, I'm the Ludo queen, and no one can tell me different. I caught up on every show that I didn't watch because of year 13. Me and my friends were analyzing stuff on the phone, and I thought, okay, let me get my physical health up as well. So me and Chloe Ting, I was like, okay, let's give it everything. I was doing the exercises like sporadically. But yeah, I would never be the person to say I did not find it difficult. And I know for a fact that that's such a massive privilege, because it was challenging for a lot of people. And also being able to have like space around me, like I can go walk as far as I want, and I'm not even in like London like that, which is different for me because I grew up like South London. Like I've always been around like big spaces, loads of people. So this was a different environment for me, a different experience for me. And yeah, it was interesting just being at home with my family, being at home, watching my sister doing homeschooling, seeing how much education has changed in the past 10 years. I'm so sorry. My alarm for my medication literally just went off. Ignore that. My
no, you need to take it.
She's 9.
No, it's fine. I'll literally remember. It's in my pocket, so as long as I hear it crackling, I'll remember.
Okay. Cool.
So my sister's 9. So she's exactly 10 years younger than me, or 10 years and 6 months actually. So it's just interesting seeing how she's growing up, and obviously her school environment is very different to how I grew up. So just seeing that dynamic and what that means for her is always fascinating to watch. Watching my mum go back to school was huge, because it was just like, I know it's something that she wanted to do for a really long time. She initially wanted to do law, but ended up studying history and came back eventually 20 years later, coming full circle. To see that, like, when you see your parents living their dreams, that's something like you don't underestimate. So yeah, my lockdown was never, I've never be that person to say it was magic to me, because
I loved lockdown as well, I'm not gonna lie. It's my favourite time. I kind of miss it.
Yeah.
To be honest. I feel like I had a similar experience to you. Like, I binge watched the whole of the Receipts podcast. That was just amazing. Exercise, walk, spend loads of time with, because we have another older brother who's exactly 10 years older than me as well, and we've not lived with him for a significant period of time throughout our lives, just because that's the way it worked out. But then he stayed with us throughout the whole of lockdown, and that was really, really great. And just not being stressed for months, like not actually having any worries for months was, and I recognize that that's a privilege, and like I just felt lucky to even, exactly, we have space in our house as well, like you were saying, so it's really nice to just be able to appreciate everything that you have and like not take anything for granted.
Yeah, I think it was such an essential reset for so many people. I think obviously there was the health issues, the financial issues if you were laid off and things like this. But I think separate to that, I think what a lot of people would resonate with what we're saying is like people who had not spent enough time with their families, people who were stressed at work, with uni, with whatever else, finally had a good enough excuse. Like, they didn't have to be hard on themselves. They could just blame something that they didn't have to argue with. Everyone agreed it's affecting the whole world. It's not political. It's like, well, it got political. But for them, it's like, we're all in this together. Okay, it doesn't matter where my deadlines are coming in. Deadlines don't matter anymore. And it was just a time to be like, what do I actually want? You know, there are people who would have made career changes. I did that. There were people who rekindled connections with people who they hadn't spoken enough to, things like that. Obviously, we're now looking at things like working from home and what that allows, like, for example, single mothers to be able to do things like this differently. Technology, I think you spoke about that in one of your podcasts as well, and how that can be useful. It was a great reset in a lot of ways. I mean, that's obviously so many different things, and we have to do those things right, but it let us like look at things that we never questioned before, like the whole when the environment was nice and the skies were blue because of
I mean, I think it was that reset word is so interesting, because I at first had a problem with people, because a lot of people were branding it as like this health reset, and in my head I was just thinking, what a lot of what was going through my mind is the small privileges in our lives that we don't even conceptualize. Just the thing of, people don't realize that a lot of people in this country live from check to check to check to check. They depend on the money that they make that week is the money that will feed their families. As simple as that. So for me to be in a position where I know that there's financial stability, there's a level of comfort in that automatically. And some people went from having income, feeding their children, looking after their families, to none of that in the space of weeks. And I felt like people were missing a beat with that. Like, people weren't even conceptualizing the fact that, okay, we can all get our jokes off, there's no toilet roll, but like, people are dying and people don't have, you know what I mean? And it's so true. People were like, initially we're all laughing like, oh my gosh, there's nothing moving. I was in Westminster and I couldn't see people. And I was like, what is going on? Like, there's no tourists, no one's taking pictures of anything. Cyclists aren't trying to run me over. Like, there's something wrong. Like, something is seriously wrong here. But then just thinking about that, there are people, it exposed a lot of the inequalities that we should have been talking about for a really, really long time. And the fact that it took the world coming to a standstill for people to sit up and pay attention. It took footballers saying, I think maybe children deserve free school. Like, I could be wrong, but that's what I think. It took him come to the big prime minister of a country for people to think, I don't know, maybe children deserve meals for free. Like, just all this wild stuff. And I just think like I was saying in my why I fell out of love with politics, it just exposed the fact that these politicians they're doing jack all, and that's the truth. Like, they're not giving anything that it was supposed to have gave, like nothing. You're not providing for people. Desperate inequalities. You're funding wars all around the world. You're not giving anything. And I just, it really exposed a lot of, I mean, I guess we'll come on to like Black Lives Matter and people finding their activism and they getting their fatigue. I'm sure we'll get there eventually, but like it was a mind warping period for me, and I imagine for a lot of people.
What I highlighted there was systems. So whether that's the political system of government, whether that's the way schools are working, all these different systems, like I say, that we just work through and take for granted, the commute to work and how that differs to people, blah, blah, blah. All those things that we never looked at because we didn't have the luxury of time or whatever else, we finally got to look at. And you're right, I think these things are just because they just go forward and forward and forward, never stopping. And obviously you can't just stop the economy, you can't just stop politics, you can't just stop flights, because they're set up in a certain way that they have to be perpetuated. So for things to actually have to stop, that was why we could look at these things. And because we didn't do anything right per se, politicians, whatever else, were basically given a clean slate to say like, okay, now you can actually change this thing, because you're doomed if you do, you're doomed if you don't. So there's no playing politics right now. You got to do something, kind of thing. And I think that helps. So what are you going to say, Louise?
Sorry.
Right. I know the feeling. There's probably like a noise outside of something.
Just a fuck off massive van. Just being so. Oh, sorry, my friend looks really pretty. She just walked past the window. Sorry, where I live is actually just horrible.
Is there loads of noise outside?
It's just a horrible place to live. Like, if you came to Selly Oak, you'd be like, wow, where do you live?
No, I get it, honestly, I do.
It's a special place. It's got character. I went to
got a lot of character.
Where are you guys like from originally in the UK? Like London or?
So she's calling from Birmingham, which is where all three of us went to uni. But we live where I'm now. I'm back with my parents, just outside London. So do you know like Slough, Uxbridge area, Buckinghamshire?
Yeah, is that like going towards Heathrow?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so just outside of London. But yeah, we've all lived in Selly Oak, where she is now actually, which is this student village.
Our older brother, and then we have a little 15-year-old brother who knows where he's going.
15, yeah.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, he's actually so precious. I was actually just deeping how precious he is to my life.
So you guys have all gone to Birmingham University. Is there a particular reason, or is it just like?
I think we all just had a great time there, so it was like go there.
And they heavily influence everything I do, so obviously that was just going to happen.
I see. That's cool. I mean, I think that's another interesting thing I always think about, having older siblings to look up to in terms of higher education, and how powerful that is. Like for me, I mean, I always knew university was going to be a thing, like Nigerian household. There was never like maybe I won't go to uni, like
you will.
You will. But having older people to like speak to and say, okay, what was your experience like, I think is really important actually, and very, very powerful in terms of shaping how you. I feel like older siblings, it's just so hard sometimes, because it's like there's no older siblings, and first generation immigrants is always a fascinating. I mean, it's something I talk about a lot, and I will continue talking about in depth, but just that experience of growing up in a household where I always conceptualize it to people as like, at home, I'm technically in Nigeria, but when I go out into the world, I'm in the UK, because I mean, both of my parents spent their formative years in Nigeria. So as far as they're concerned, like the way things are going to run around here is we're in Nigeria. And then what does that do to someone as a younger child, particularly going out into the world and then the world being Britain, and then coming back home and it being, and then going back and forth between the two, I think is always a bit of a kind of like your parents are, it's a mad disconnect. Like your parents are saying you don't call adults by their first names.
Yeah,
and you
no,
go out
none of that. Auntie everything.
Auntie everything, and then you go out and then everyone's just like, call me Jane, and I'm just like, no, I can't. Like, I actually can't call you Jane.
Had a yo-yo experience because we moved to Ghana middle of our lives, where we had to call our teachers uncle and auntie. And then,
that was mad.
So so we had to kind of flip-flop. So we were born and raised here until I was 9 and Louise was 5.
Five.
Yeah, and then our little baby brother was only like,
he was
baby. He was literally what, like 3,
he started walking there. Do you remember the little when he was on the? Do you remember that day? I remember that day so clearly.
Yeah.
Well, I was hiding in like the toilet or something.
Boy, and then he fell, but then he basically ran before he walked. Literally, like because he was falling to keep himself up. I was like, oh my god, he's walking. So he learned English in Ghana, technically.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he had an accent for ages. It was jokes.
I mean, we all kind of like picked up a kind of thing, but then you go back to school here for a while, and then you kind of like re-assimilate and stuff like that. But yeah, I guess assimilation is the word I'm looking for, right? Like, because we were here for 5 years, and certainly by the time I was 9, I had certain things that I was socialized for here, and then we're only there for like 2 years, but then that's enough time to assimilate to something. Accents come into that, things like that, but then for us, it was kind of similar to what you were saying, actually, because we went to a British school there. So it was like Ghana everywhere else, and then not Britain, but like relatively Britain with a Ghana at school.
No, I'd say it's more Ghana with a hint of Britain. I say the school.
No, so like relative to obviously the rest of life while we were out there, that was where we got like GCSE curriculum, that kind of stuff, like that kind of thing. But then obviously the rest of life was in Ghana. And then when we came back again, like you say, our family was the more kind of Ghanaian influence again, and then the rest of the world was back to what we knew and what was maybe like reinforced at school. So these things can be, you've got to be agile, and kids are agile, I guess, but they are.
I think we don't give children specifically or first generation immigrants enough credit for the code switching, for the mental gymnastics that it takes to be in this world, because I mean we don't think about it until we really like look back on it. It's living two completely different lives, and sometimes your parents don't even realize it because they just kind of go through like, this is my experience, I grew up in Nigeria, like this is how we do things, and that's just that. So I'm being raised like culturally Nigerian, but then obviously I have specific things that I would say, not British values, quote unquote, because again, there's a lot tied into that. But I mean, just in terms of like some of the views I have, political opinions that I have, definitely shaped by where I am, for sure. Yeah.
What do you question about? What do you think about like the African mentality? Because we love to question that on a day-to-day basis. Like we love to challenge our parents, which is mad to them.
Talk about it.
We do like challenge them.
Yeah, it's a topic I actually talk about quite a lot as well. I love that I feel like we're in sync, and I love that for us. I'm really big on, as I get older, not challenging my parents, because I still think the fundamental aspect of respect is very important. But I like to hopefully get them to think differently and to see that maybe the perspectives that they come from have flaws, the same way the perspectives that I have flaws as well. And it's so fun having that journey, I suppose, with my parents, being able to communicate with. We agree on a lot of things, but we also disagree on a lot of things. I'll give just a very brief example. So I'm Igbo, and in Igbo culture, when we have a gathering with a group of people, the elder, or the elder man, I should say, will break something called kola nut. So it's like a gesture of kind of welcoming everybody. You break it, there's kind of prayers over it, and like the first thing they'll say is that kola nut only speaks Igbo, and then there'll be like a whole prayer in Igbo, and then it gets shared around, it gets passed around. And the way it's passed around is it goes to men first. So it will go around to all the men in the room first. It doesn't matter how young or how old. So a 5-year-old boy can get it before a 50-year-old woman. Yeah. So, and I always used to say to my parents, I've said it before, is like, there's nothing wrong with tradition. There's nothing wrong with culture. But I just want you guys to see that that's an example of like patriarchy. Like that's just a prime example of something that happens regularly in our culture. I don't say there's anything particularly wrong with it. I'm not like, I need the kola nut first. But I just find it interesting that our culture is so heavily based on respect. But the respect is conditional, and it's conditional particularly on gender sometimes. And I think that's such an interesting concept, because we're always talking about respect. And is respect age, or is respect gender? Is it a combination of the two? Like which one is it? Because I think there's a lot of double standards.
I'm just loving what you're saying right now. Like,
yeah,
I think I found a lifelong friend. The respect thing is like, just like, I come to like what was I thinking about lately? Beating your children, right? I feel like from the age of like, since I could understand anything, to probably like 15, I probably thought, yeah, I'm probably going to beat my children. Like that's the only way to discipline them.
Yeah.
And then I thought, that's actually wrong.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like everyone has their own way of doing this. And I'm very big on, I'm never going to be that person that's like, nah, Nigerian culture is too much, I can't handle it, blah, blah, blah. I'm never going to be that person, because I love our culture and I love how it works. I want us to be critical of it. I want us to question it. I want us to think about the ways in which it's problematic. And in the same way where I think of the numerous ways that British culture is extremely problematic, I think that, it's an interesting dichotomy to live in. And I just always, because my parents always say, no, like it's tradition. That's how we've always done it. That's how we're always going to keep doing it. And I've always said to my mom, I'm not telling anyone to pass the cola to me first. Like y'all go off, pass it to who you want to pass it to. But I wouldn't like it when people would say that that's not picture, because it is, like, and that's okay to say. It's okay to say that something has an element of something that is hierarchical without saying, okay, we need to get rid of it straight away. There's a way of having those discussions.
Yeah, so I like what you've said there, and I actually want to make what is maybe an abstract comparison to what we were speaking about with coronavirus and the government. So you said dichotomy there, and that's the first thing I start off by saying. Is like, I think when any serious conversation, there's always this story or this ideal versus this ideal, and this is my one, this is your one competing. I think in any serious conversation, the truth always lies somewhere in the middle, right? And I think a thing of culture, I think of systems, which is how I compare back to like governments and schools and things like that, is they're all built on like stories. And because stories, we need like stories because they influence people on a bigger scale, and they're the way we do things, like whether that's religious stories, political stories, institutional stories. And sometimes when we have to kind of like characterize something as fundamental as like how we run a government, how we run families, you need big overarching stories that can spread easy and little like unquestionable things that everyone just adopts, so they can just leave that without thinking. However, it has to come to a point where you have to go through painful transitions to update those things with critical thinking. So I think with COVID, we've paused enough that we can challenge like what has been problematic but conducive ways of working in terms of education, whatever else, to a demographic that isn't where it's at now. Now we have different demographic, we've got a new set of problems. It's tough to break all these foundations up and build them back up, but that's where we're at now. So it's not about this was evil, this is good, whatever. It's no, everything has to go through transitions. Same thing with culture. What may have served back in Nigeria or Ghana for families that did not have the luxury to be sitting down at the dinner table about the patriarchy because they were trying to feed themselves every 2 seconds, we now have the luxury in this country to pick those things apart and not lose the intrinsic values that were useful in terms of family unit, respect, love, things like that, discipline. But take those things out, understand that's where they were coming from, and you reintegrate that in what can work for our family in this context. And I feel like
context is context is everything. I'm always that person. Like the things I'm saying for 2021 is A, context, and B, use your words. It's like I'll come to use your words in a bit, but for context, it's like context is everything. And no one said that transition is easy. I'm the first person to say it, and a lot of people say I'm too soft on this sometimes. Transition is not easy. I get that it is very challenging for some people in this country to realize that your country has been doing the madness for couple centuries now. I know it's hard. I get that, because when you don't teach, when you don't educate a population of people about the errors that they've made, there's no way you're going to get any other result than people who don't understand their history and therefore don't understand other people's struggles. It's not rocket science. That you can't not teach something and expect people to be like, oh, you know what, you're right, I agree with you. Like, it's never going to work like that. So I'm always of the school of change is never going to be easy. I don't expect overnight for everyone to start talking about white privilege, and some people still even struggle with that term in the first place. I'm never that person to be like, change needs to happen straight away. The same way within family and culture, I'm never going to be that person to say, no, you need to end this now. I don't want to see any men get the call anymore. In fact, come to me first. I'm never going to be that person. Like, and I mean, families and cultures adapt over time, and you see it happen, and I see it happening in small baby steps within my own family. Of like the other day, I was explaining to my mom what colorism is, and she didn't really get it. She was like, oh, I don't really understand, like what is this? Is this another word that you guys are always talking about? And then she watched I don't know if you guys saw Leanne's documentary.
I'm a bit apprehensive to watch it, you know. I might be annoyed, but I will.
I think you should. I watched it and I was very like, but girl, I was talking to the screen. I was like, no, I was getting annoyed. But I think it was important, because then my mom came to me the next day and she was like, oh, I watched that girl from Little Mix. I watched her documentary, and I know what the colorism thing is. Like, I get what you were talking about now. And it's small things like that that just show you that we're all on the learning journey. We're all on the learning experience. As for that documentary, I think a lot more people should watch it. I know people were very, very skeptical, but I think it's interesting to watch, because you get to see. I watched the documentary for an hour, and I came to the basic conclusion that there are several reasons why you can often see why people behave the way they do from when they explain how they grew up. The way she explained it, just to kind of give context, I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but she was saying how when she spoke to her parents, her parents were in the documentary, and they were saying they never raised her to say, like, if you're Black, you have to work 2 times as hard. Like, they never said that to her. They just said, go out into the world and do as you please. And I found it interesting that she said for the 10 years that she was in Little Mix, she never really like challenged anything. She was the only Black person in a lot of the rooms and spaces that she was in, but she was like, she just kept going. It was only now when she came to like the Black Lives Matter and looking retrospectively, it was like, oh my gosh, this stuff is happening. And I think it's always going to be different. Whereas my parents always told me, like, listen, this is the state of affairs. This is how things are going to run. Like, they never sit me down, if you like. You know how they always dramatize in TV shows,
in America.
Like, it's just like, you guys, it doesn't happen like that. I'm sorry to say. And maybe for some people that's what they do, but there was never any like the talk. It was always just, this is how things are going to run for you in this United Kingdom that we're in. And this is what it is, and this is how you go forward with it. And I think that small piece of preparation, some could say it's fear-mongering, some could say, why not just let them go as they please? But I can see the way how me and Rianne, if you like, we've come to the same point of realizing that things are mad, but she's only just really settled into that realization. And I was irritated with her for most of the documentary, but then I realized like everyone has their own journey to this. Like, not everyone grew up being educated about social justice issues. And that's the challenge that people on Twitter need to really understand. Like, you cannot be dragging people every day, people who never, ever knew what social justice is or cared. That's not how this life works. Some people want to wake up, go to work, make their money, eat food, and sleep. That's how this life works. There's always going to be some people who care, some people who don't. Yeah. So, yeah.
Those people there who are just working the emotions, it might be because they've got 100 other things in their own personal lives dealing with, right? Because let's say they've got a kid to feed, they've got a parent to look after, they've got trauma from their past, whatever. Yes, okay, some of these issues, we're a global people, and I completely am with that. And educating yourself to operate in the multitude of systems we're going to work in is important, but they got to deal with their own thing first. That's the first thing I'd say. And then in terms of what you're talking about, in terms of like dialogue between parents and kids on social media spaces, I also think when it comes, education is so important, dialogue is so important, but when it comes to the educator, so whether that's the parent or the Twitter person, don't be arrogant with your position as well. So don't think because I've read up on it once or I've thought about it one more time than you, I suddenly know everything. You be part of the dialogue as well. Because if they don't see sincere dialogue there, they're going to ignore you. They're going to be like, oh, you're just too much, mum. Like, for example, my mum is very strict on alcohol. So she used to tell my sister, don't drink any alcohol at all. Don't let it touch this, whatever else. So she was like, well, that's not a reasonable middle. So I'm not going to listen to any of it. So if she maybe said like, okay, drink, but in this moderation, blah, 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 do you see what I'm saying? So that's obviously a different example.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to connect your lived experience and what you've understood that they haven't, and their lived experience, because things may be different for them.
Yeah. And I get that thing that, I mean, a lot of Black people have said this to me and on Twitter, that they're tired of explaining their experience to people. And I get that. I get the kind of like, oh, do I have to like really break it down for you? Like, shouldn't you be able to see this? Not everyone sees everything. And I think people have to come to that realization. Like, I did not learn about the British Empire in school. Nobody told me that. You would think, alongside the Industrial Revolution, when they were telling us about the children in the factories and the clothes they were making, no one thought to mention the cotton. Oh, where does that come from? Yeah. No one ever, just dropped that in there because cotton is not growing in this United Kingdom. No one just dropped it. Maybe, something else going on here. So there's always going to be gaps in people's knowledge, and the knowledge that people choose to pursue depends on how intimately it affects them. If racism or feeling discriminated against is not intimately affecting you, I mean, I say this, people say it's controversial, but I don't see why people would pay attention. I'm talking about human nature. I'm not talking about lofty ideals that everyone loves to talk about. How, you should always feel like the pain of others. Life does not work like that. People are not like that. That's the truth. Like, as much as we all want to be
like, not everyone is a really empathetic person, and you can't force people to feel empathy. Like, you're gonna have specific people out there who have empathy, who really do feel the pain of others. The majority of people do not give two fucks.
They don't, and that's something that people have to come. Yeah, and you have to come to that acceptance. Like, I'm at that stage in my life where I know there are people who have not experienced discrimination and they don't care. They could not care less about the fact of any racist experience that I've told them that I've experienced. I only had one overt racist experience in my life, which is that I was crossing the road, and a cyclist like nearly hit me and then called me a monkey. And it was just like, that's the only, but someone, I know, someone who has never felt that can never know what that feels like. It doesn't matter how many times you describe it to them. It doesn't matter how many blackish, mixedish, brownish, brownish, how many shows you make for them.
Oh, I love those shows.
Never. You're never gonna feel that feeling of afterwards of like, I didn't say anything. I just sat on the bus and went to school and moved on. No one is ever gonna be able to conceptualize that.
Go on, Luis.
Now, I was going to say, segueing from Blackish and Grownish, what do you think about those shows, like, as a concept, the way they're portrayed?
Yeah, we'll get onto this. I just want to quickly say, so okay. I just want to get reply to that, but yeah, we'll shift you back onto that, and we'll talk about our TV shows and media and stuff like that.
Yes.
What I want to say is that I think you are very right in that. Like, if something is such a far removed experience, shouting at them with words isn't going to do anything. But what I think could make a difference, those people who say what you're saying of I'm tired of sharing my experience, maybe listen to their experience, and then in doing so, you might find a parallel that will hit the spot straight away. So your experience might be, our experience might be a racial slur, where the parts of it is feeling powerless, not feeling like you've done anything wrong, feeling other than all these things. They might have their own version of that. So, for example, if they're disabled, they might have other than powerless, blah blah blah, stereotype about being disabled or whatever. They get it now. But if you could shout about your own experience, like listening to theirs, how are you going to connect with that person? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's maybe a way to get around that.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, I've cut you off there.
I completely agree that making links is always the way you're going to connect with people. Louise, you were saying about what I think of Blackish, Mixedish, Braided. I personally, contrary to a lot of my friends, I like Blackish. I always have. I find it very entertaining. I think they touch on a lot of issues, and people underestimate the power that some of those shows have in terms of reaching a wide audience and being able to get people to think about things that they wouldn't normally think about. I think they were dragging it was like the mixed dish, and then I saw this morning on Twitter that they want to make a brownish, so about Latino experiences as well. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So,
I was brownish.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, with I think Eva Longoria is working with the man who writes like the Blackish, and I know he made another one.
Yeah, what was the last one with Rashida Jones?
Yeah, Black AF or something. I mean,
yeah.
But I heard a lot of like backlash and all of those things. Me personally, I'm not against Black people using the tools that they think they have to try and educate people. But that doesn't mean I'm not gonna criticize. I'm gonna be there. Like if I feel like something's not working, I'm gonna be there to criticize. But I'm also not the person that's like, they shouldn't have made that show. It's not fitting. No, I'm here for all of it because any education is important, but we should also be able to critique it and be like, that wasn't great.
Yeah.
Have you seen it? Have you seen it, Jeremy?
I've not seen those shows. I can only compare to like similar kind of show. I've not seen those. I mean, I know them, but I've not like gone through them. So like I've seen like Jn'l and Georgia and that kind of stuff.
Ginny and Georgia.
Now
I loved it.
Did you?
I loved it, okay, but the race stuff, absolutely, there was no, what was that happening?
On Twitter, see, this is the problem with Twitter, because I'm only seeing clips. The clip I saw, I don't even want to go into what they said, because I thought it was a joke. I thought it was someone doing a
Is it Oppression Olympics? Which bit was it?
I think the guy was like, you're not even that black though. And I was just like, what is this? I'm thinking, is this real? Like, is this actually happening? Like the guy, what was he? He was saying something about she doesn't eat jerk chicken, or I don't know what it was. I can't remember what it was that he said. And I just remember thinking, huh? in 2020, in 2021?
No, but the thing that I think about that was they were trying to say that it was just her and the way she looked. I was just like, I genuinely thought this girl was white until they said that she was mixed race, right? And so they kept on using these silly, not white, but well, pretty white. Meghan Markle white. We'll go for that. Yeah, Meghan Markle white. And they were saying all this really crazy stuff, and I was like, she would not have that experience in real life with the way she looks. That is just not accurate.
And I mean, one of my friends that I talked to quite a lot about this issue, she was on the conversation that I did with Tira and Louise and one of my other friends when we spoke about Meghan Markle and the British media and race and all that stuff. Not me forgetting what I was about to say. Yeah, no, she's always talking about how the obsession that Netflix has with casting mixed race characters as female leads, and I always find it interesting because there's so many examples of it, like the Madeleine Stenbergs, the Yara Shahidis, the kind of we got a role for a black person, we know where we're going, type of thing. Which I don't know, because I love them both as actors. I think they're amazing, but I think it's very, very telling that the industry has these people on standby. Like these are the people they go to.
Let's not forget her.
You see, me, I don't want to be that person. To me, Zendaya is Shake It Up, Casey Undercover. this is what I know. So people are out here talking about she's winning Emmys. Everyone's saying she's a serious actress. I'm like, okay, if you guys say so, if you guys say so. I haven't watched Euphoria, so I can't be a judge. But I'm just saying, I think you guys are dragging it. That's what I think.
They put them all on a pedestal.
I'm telling you.
Wait, come on, okay. Viola Davis, that Emmy award-winning actress, Zendaya. I don't really know.
Yeah, everyone's moving like Zendaya's the new Meryl Streep. I'm thinking, y'all need to slow down. Take it easy. Breathe.
Like the best becoming the best, because make space for people actually making that stuff rather than just writing good scripts and putting whoever's the most popular person in them. But yeah, what I want to say about those kind of shows, I mean, Netflix is a good example that you put there. I absolutely, you ask Louise, like, I won't shut up about it. I'll see a show and I'll see like 2 seconds of it and I'm like, in the first 5 minutes of this, half the dialogue is going to be white people. Blah. Okay, I haven't heard that joke a million times. And then they're going to throw out a few like tired bits about, I don't know, it's just all so played out and obvious.
Yeah, and very
love. Yeah, it's just like, I've heard this version of this, you know what I mean? It's forced. And if you don't put, like, people have a detector of like bullshit, what's real. If you just say this is the way it is, it's just pantomiming it. But what I love is shows, like two different, very, very different shows. I'm going to talk about Grey's Anatomy, yeah? And I'm going to talk about like, This Is Us kind of thing. So Grey's Anatomy, what I love about Grey's Anatomy, the show is like maybe 20 years old from when it started. It has black surgeons, black chief.
Are you a Grey's Anatomy fan?
I've made it through like 4 seasons in the space of a month or 2 months. I'm getting there. I'm trying to get there.
Okay, you guys can dangle about this.
What I love about Grey's Anatomy,
I love it. Go ahead.
Is that like they've got black people. This is like a show again, like 20 years old from when it started. They've got black surgeons. This black people representation. They don't talk about black once. You just see it's not a thing. It's not a sexy thing of like, oh, look at this showcase black surgeon. Look at this showcase black politics. It's just that's that character who happens to be black, and it's so effortless. And that's what real representation is. It's like, oh, you know what I mean? It's you're not forced to think it. You can naturally make those associations, and I love that. But I also like the This Is Us's and things like that, or Attack the Block, which you talk about, which is coming out with the sequel, where it's like Attack the Block. On the surface of it is a funny horror movie, whatever. Deeper than that, it depicts, okay, when you see these gangs, whatever, and you can see these one context. No, really, sometimes they're 15-year-old boys who are a bit lost in their ways because they've got no one really at home with them. But really, there's a person in there who's good at heart, and they just want to have fun with their mates, that kind of thing. And so they do stupid shit like sell drugs and mug people. But they're just kids. They're just people. Yeah. And they didn't have to explain that in some like pathetic rant. They just showed it in a very subtle way.
And so, that's Grey's Anatomy. I mean, I'm about to go off because Shonda Rhimes has all of you guys. I don't know where the writers are. They need to up their game. Shonda Rhimes has all of you guys looking really stupid out here. Let me talk about it, okay? So Grey's Anatomy it's so crazy. I was always saying to people, if I watched Grey's Anatomy before I applied for medicine, it would have changed my perspective so differently. And that's how powerful I believe that show is. You had a black chief from the beginning, black surgeons left, right, and center. It was never even a conversation. I mean, as you'll get to later seasons, you'll realize they talk about it a bit more. You can see the world is changing. But one thing about Shonda Rhimes' writing in Grey's Anatomy, in Scandal, in How to Get Away with Murder, which is Scandal. Okay, so you're a Scandal?
Yeah.
Anything Shonda writes, she's gonna give you what it was supposed to have gave. That's what she's gonna do. And it's the fact that she so effortlessly reminds you of the world that you're living in, but she doesn't need to scream it at you. Like a lot of people, I remember last year or sometime this year, there was a lot of controversy. People were saying Shonda Rhimes always depicts, like she depicts Olivia Pope, so who's the main character in Scandal. She always has her natural hair when like she's feeling relaxed and all of that stuff. And when she's in a work environment, It was always like pressed and straight, or it's a wig. I don't really know. People always saying that yeah, defo wig, but like Shonda, everyone's always like Shonda doesn't like natural hair. No, Shonda is depicting the real life experiences of a woman who works in that environment. Like for Olivia Pope to be in Washington DC doing what she does, I know it's fictional, but I feel it, okay? And people don't realize what that is to work her environment. Her colleagues are white men. Let's just put it simply, plain and simple. She's expected to look a certain way, behave a certain way, perform a certain way. So even small things like her hair, the clothes that they choose for her is all designed to show you that she must conform. Even the same way they depict Annalise, like that scene, I think in the first episode where she takes off her wig at the end of the day, like people is so powerful and just giving, and Shonda has all of you guys looking wild in these streets. I just have to say, yeah, she has you all looking crazy.
Yeah, sure.
I'm trying to think who else. Oh, okay. Well, obviously, I found a way to segue to Vampire Diaries. My cousin actually, our cousin, did her dissertation on Bonnie's like portrayal in Vampire Diaries and like the subtleties of like race in her experience, and I just was like, yeah.
If we're gonna get into Bonnie Bennett and how they really said
wrong,
we're gonna give you no character in TV show history has been done as wrong as Bonnie Bennett. I'm gonna say it. That's the truth. Okay, so for context, people are listening. Bonnie,
if you don't know, you're.
Yeah, I mean it's a bit disappointing, but we'll help you. So Bonnie is like the black best friend. So if you have like the 2000s, every film, every TV show had the black best friend, and that was what Bonnie was essentially depicted as. She was, so everyone else was kind of vampires, werewolves, and she was a witch. And I just found it so interesting how her experience in the show, like everything just kept going wrong for her. It didn't matter what it was. They killed Bonnie Bennett more times than I can count. I mean, sis was alive, dead in the real world, in the fake world. I don't want to spoil anything, but season 8, episode 10 is the best piece of art I've ever seen. Yeah. And she was giving everything, and y'all did it wrong. That's all I'm gonna say. But and I remember, I don't know if you've watched her when she did like her natural hair.
Oh my god, and she cried,
I cried.
When I rewatch, every time I rewatch it, I'm like, I could have put that weave on her so much. Like, are you actually what is this little? And this is what I'm saying here.
And they were not giving her anything. They were not giving her and when she said, this was the first time I had to be alone with my hair, my heart broke, because I just felt like that emotion of because hair is such an important topic to me, and like how that makes a lot of Black women feel. But to see her kind of be forced again by a global pandemic to actually take care of her own hair for herself for the first time, and to see what that meant to her. And even watching her, like, she got the Cantu cream and she was putting mad Cantu cream. I was like, sis, I would not put that much, but I love it for you.
We'll try, you can trial and error it.
It's fine, sweetie, go ahead, do what you gotta do.
Hair is a mad one. I'm currently transitioning. I actually cried, like, I had a full-on breakdown because I took my braids out, and right, I don't even want to say the error of my ways because it makes me feel physically sick to say.
Talk about it. No,
I can't. I was really bit. You know what? Fuck coursework. Coursework fucked my hair. But I was like really busy, and I was just like, it's fine. I don't have to detangle before I wash.
I've done it.
Yeah,
I've done it, sis. I've been
shampooed it. Sat for 3 hours. Tried tangling it, loads came out. This side is less than this side, but no one notices, but I do. And I'm just kind of done. I'm over the transition, even though it's going to be another like 2 years. But yeah, I'm excited. Like when I see the little curves, I'm like, oh, eventually.
So did you have relaxed hair before? So how long did you do a big chop, or you just like transitioning?
just transitioning. I stopped relaxing it. Oh my god, the relaxing one. But I think my mom started when I want to say 8, but like that could be wrong. And then like for a bit I stopped, like when I was like 14, then went straight back to it. Then the last time I relaxed it was November 2020, and I will not touch the shit again. Like no matter, I won't do it. I will not do it.
How does your mum feel about it?
Oh, I am really annoyed at her, to be honest. About I even like compared it to child abuse. I'm like, you actually just like instilled in me that I had to have this hair because it was
yeah.
Like she still she was like, no, you can't go natural. No, Louise, your hair is so beautiful. No, it's not.
What do you think about the fact that because she's my mum's like half and half. So she's a lot like lighter, and I guess her hair would be a lot would you say
you can see it, it's
not thin necessarily, but like, would you think that played
all
into
all the people who know that natural hair scale is, I'm gonna say maybe like 3C.
Yeah, she broke down the documentary for me. It was like, yeah, like they laid out all the different strands, different curls.
Yeah. The hair, I know it's hard to anyone that's listening, that's going on their natural hair journey. It's hard. It's not easy, especially when you're in a world where all the signs and signals are telling you that like your hair should look like this, your hair should look like that, or you should use this product, you should use that product. I'm a firm believer in finding what works for you, and that also means like going out and exploring, going into the hair shop, asking your friends, okay, what did you use here? What did you use there? Yeah, it's a journey. It's not
always like, I literally after my breakdown, I FaceTimed my cousin, and I was like, because my cousin's transitioned as well, and like I really just want to emulate what they did. But then I feel like that's also a problem, because then I'm comparing my hair to theirs, and I'm like, I really, really want it to look like yours. And then I just keep like looking at these strands, and I'm like, what's it gonna look like? What's it gonna look like? But I feel like I have to just let go of that and realize that it will look like what it looks like when I cut it off, and we'll just have to go from there. And I mean, it's my hair, so I guess it will frame my face in the way that it should. Like, that's the way it should be naturally.
Yeah. It's a weird thing to like not even have a sense of identity of what your own hair is, because you've mostly either been on braids or like relaxed, like you were saying. Like you won't even recognize what like the healthy stage is, or what the normal, like the natural stages or whatever fully. You've only got like other people's natural stages to compare to. And especially as like mixed people, that varies so much, so you won't know. You just have to accept, like you said, you have to accept.
I look back at old photos of myself, and I'm like, is that, I can't really see because it's a bit blurry because it's like early 2000s, but that could be cute.
Yeah, it's such a journey, and I think also there's a real danger, I would say, to anyone that's transitioning, to be very careful of your YouTube consumption. There are a lot of YouTubers out there that are giving foul advice, that are making people feel bad about their hair, and I feel very, very strongly about it. Find YouTubers that you feel comfortable with, because people don't understand the power of like, I mean, I don't want to be that person, because I feel like everyone's YouTube channel will mean different things for different people. But like a Jasmine Brown, who has like a huge like 3C hair, like really long, gets really straight, all of that stuff. Like that is not the fact that she's like one of the leaders in the natural hair space, but the majority of people like with natural hair, that's not what their hair looks like. That's not their experience. That's not the products they're going to use. You don't crump it, like fluff your hair, like squeeze the curl. Like that is not.
What are these called? Diffuser. Like I'm putting any diffuser in my hair.
I'm thinking people are holding these things, and they just know the worst one when they say just wet your hair and crump the curls and just go. It's a water vibes is what we're giving you. Like my hair won't just shrink, like it won't just and move on with this life. But yeah, I say be very mindful of the YouTubers you consume, because they can make you feel like your hair is inadequate. It's not. You just haven't found whose hair looks like yours. Like for me, it's Chizzy Doo. If anyone wants to look her up, she has like 4C hair, but she's very like empowering about it. She has like relatable advice. She talks about how things go wrong in her hair sometimes. Like she had heat damage, and she literally showed the entire journey through it and how it happened. It happened by accident. She didn't even realize it had happened, so she went to go get braids. That's someone who's like in the natural hair space, who knows about natural hair, got heat damage. It can happen to anyone. Anyone can have challenges in their natural hair journey. It's not. Yeah. It's all an experience.
I think it's just like scary. I think it's just like scary.
There you go.
Scary, like beauty standards. Like I'm so used to being seen as I am now. Like I am kind of scared to see what people think of me, when I know I shouldn't care what people think, but like I'm a human. I do.
No, it's like, perfectly reasonable. Yeah.
Myself like that through other people's eyes, but
yeah, I think that's perfectly reasonable. It's not unusual at all. You're wondering, this is the hair I've lived in all my life. People underestimate how powerful hair is, especially for women. Hair is your your crown. I don't want to go to African queen on everybody, but it's your accessory. It's something that there's nothing like black hair in the world, and it defies gravity quite literally. Like it doesn't conform to the norms. There's nothing like it. So it's completely understandable for you to be wondering, okay, what's this thing gonna look like once we done? Like what's gonna happen to it? How will
is it gonna be here? Is it gonna be here? Is it gonna be here? I don't know.
How are people gonna receive me with it is another thing. Because I think my experience has always been, because I've always been natural. The first time I had braids, like any kind of anything in my hair, was when I was 14, I think. So my mum was very strict on like, this is the only thing that is staying in your head. Like that's all you need. So she learned how to do hair by having me. And again, I kind of have a similar experience to you. My mum she's lighter than me, and her hair is like a 3C type texture. So I always remember feeling, I want my mom's hair. Like, when I grow up, when I'm old enough, I'm gonna relax my hair. It's gonna look like that. It's gonna be straight. But it's like that journey of being able to grow into my own hair. And in a way, I'm really, really grateful for what she did, for like making it so that, because it made me comfortable with it, to now where I'm at a stage where I love my natural hair. Like that's the standard for me. That's where I want it to be. Like I love my braids, I love my different styles, but the hair that grows out of my head, I love it. So it's all a journey. It really is.
Yeah, that's really important. That's definitely really important. I mean, this is a different thing, but like my girlfriend's Indian, and she specifically watches a YouTuber who does Indian skincare stuff. An Indian person who does dermatologist who does skincare stuff. So obviously there's the whole thing with like that people talk about, like with makeup and complexion and what's available, but even that is just like hormone levels and what works with a particular type of, like, I mean, I'm not a dermatologist, I don't understand about skin and stuff, but apparently even the products used and stuff like that for your skin makes a difference in terms of like what, how oily your skin is, and that kind of thing is similar to hair, like how oily your hair is and blah blah blah. And so there's different people, different spaces. So like, yeah, I think with YouTube now especially, there's so many different people that you can connect with in these kind of issues and kind of find your niche.
Skin is such an interesting.
Oh, I love her.
Sorry, what'd you say?
Patricia Bright.
See, Patricia, I love it. I love her, just everything. Patricia, Jackie Aina, I love them because they just give this, like, they don't care, luxury, but just living their best lives, and I love that for them. What you were saying about skin is so interesting. So I didn't realize up until very recently that you could get sun cream that didn't make your skin go white, that like didn't have
I've only ever used purple, so whatever the fuck it is. What color?
I did not realize. So I'm watching this YouTuber. He's a white YouTuber, but he talks a lot about in his videos about like the difference between skin, because obviously people think, oh, you don't need sun cream if you're black, blah blah blah, and everyone needs sun cream to protect your skin. And I had no idea that there were like brands that actually make, like, if I even show you the sun cream that's here, like this one now, this would make my skin go, I look purple or something like that. But I obviously need it because I have to protect my skin. So I was looking online. There's a company called, I think, Black Girl Sunscreen. They make like specific sun cream that doesn't have a white cast. Me and my mum found a sun cream again the other day that doesn't have been using it and it doesn't give a white, like that's crazy to me, that it doesn't make my skin look weird. So there's so many spaces where representation is so important, particularly in dermatology as well. Yeah,
100%. Dermatology, massive thing. Like I get keloids. That's just a thing that apparently happens to Black people, which I didn't know until like last year.
Yeah.
And then like I don't know, like I tried to get it on the NHS and they were just like, no. They were kind of just like, they were just kind of just didn't understand. They were like, oh yeah, it seems to be this thing that happens to Black people. We can book you in for a plastic surgeon if you want. I was like, a plastic surgeon? They said
my hyperpigmentation. They said we can't help you. Like,
so I just called my dermatologist because I'm lucky enough to go privately through my dad, and my dermatologist literally like got rid of them in like 3 sessions.
Literally, like, I mean, I don't have the funds for that, but if I did, I would definitely, one of the things I was saying is I'll definitely try and go and see a private dermatologist. Like, all those small things that we don't even think about creating access for Black people is so important.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thinking, so I don't know how much to like segue from here, because I was thinking about like hair and the whole cultural appropriation topic, but I don't know like how far to go away with that, because I saw
how far do we get into it with the time we have left? I mean, I guess I could just maybe talk a bit about like what my current like view is on cultural appropriation, because I guess it's so funny how, I mean, speaking to my mom again about it, like when you always tell your parents about different things, like my mom doesn't get cultural appropriation, like full stop. She's like, I don't understand. What are you people complaining about? Why can't they wear your braids? Kind of thing. And I'm like, in a way I get it, because she thinks it's something so trivial that she's just like, I don't get what the problem is. I'm always of the view that if you do it respectfully, like I'm not, even when you do it disrespectfully, me as a person, as an individual, it doesn't personally offend me. I don't know about other people, but I'm not aggrieved. Trust me, your braids don't hurt me. Yeah. But do I question what's going on there? Yes, I'm absolutely wondering, okay, what's this about? And also in a wider context, I mean, because I think the small scale examples people get too hung up in sometimes. I think people should be thinking more wide scale about how have beauty standards changed in the last 10 years? What features do we want from particular people? Like you have the question of blackfishing. I don't know if you guys have heard about it.
Yeah, it's fucking weird.
Yeah, like when you have like white or even mixed race like influencers, or basically darkening their skin or using makeup that makes them look racially ambiguous to appeal to a wider audience. Like that stuff for me is so interesting, because it's like, so you want this part of the culture because it's culturally relevant, like hip hop culture, Black culture is currently relevant. So people want parts of it. They don't want all of it. Like we don't want everything, but they want parts of it. And I find that fascinating, the commercialization of Blackness as if you can even call Blackness a thing.
So what that gets me to think of, and that what I don't understand, I do understand, but what I think is seen as completely two different topics, but basically sides of a similar coin. And I think it's depending on what you define as assimilation. Is so, for example, there's a massive thing in the Asian community, even within Britain, but within Asia. For example, all of their skincare products, like it's not like a specific niche thing, have whitening in them, like all the mainstream products. So sun cream to makeup, whatever, it's just something they put in their skin like soap. It's just a thing. And that happens a lot in Oriental Asia, and also, India, like I say. So it's, it's quite a big thing. And obviously, I think the first thing people would look to for that example is, okay, but because of colonialism and the global sort of beauty standards, they feel like conditioned for that to fit that beauty standard. However, I do think that's true. That's why they do it, right? No one would want to do something to their skin based off of that drastic to their skin that could have damaging things, because lots of people get burns from it and stuff, not off their own volition. However, I do think to a lesser extent, and it could be a different source, but tan beds, fake tan.
It's really bad. I completely agree.
Assimilation as well. And I think we're living in a multicultural where, for example, let's say a white person wants to join your old school, which you said was mostly Black. they might want to darken their skin or do things with their hair, whatever, to assimilate. Because I always say this thing: we don't live in the world; we live in microcultures, micro contexts. Even so far as you were saying with your home is even your school, and so with the Jenners and the Kardashians and stuff like that. Again, they've now set a certain beauty standard that people are trying to get with it. So it's
even they themselves are struggling within. Like the whole Chloe thing and how she wanted that picture scrubbed from the internet was fascinating. I heard someone say, how can you be complaining to us about the beauty standard that for the best part of a decade your family has been perpetuating and creating? Like, it's so interesting how these concepts don't escape any of us, even the richest, the most powerful in society. The comparison made with tanning and skin lightening is an interesting one, because again, it's all within what context you're living in. Like when it was back in the Victorian times, you had to be pale, because if you weren't, that meant you worked, and they don't work a job. They would say, no, I'm rich, I don't work a job, I'm inside, so I was paler. It's funny how these things cycle and change as we go through phases in life.
But I think with the tanning thing, like I've always said to my friends, I'm like you need to be comfortable in your natural skin tone. They're like, shut up, Louise, it's just tanning. And I'm like, no, it means you don't like the way your skin looks. It means you don't like looking white or pale, and that's not good. Like, that's just not good to have that kind of view. And they're like, but it's not the same. And I'm like, it is the same. Like, you're beautiful exactly the way that you look. You do not need to tan to go out. Like, you don't need to. It's not a thing that should be pushed on. And I think it's really, really awful. Like, all these YouTubers with Molly Mays, like her tanning line, like it's actually perpetuating. You can't look good unless you've tanned. Like,
they're people as well. So the Kardashians, the Molly Mays, they're doing it for their own versions of identity and assimilation, and they're just people who have they have different responsibility to what we do going outside, because they have a following that they're consciously feeding into. But their reasons for doing things are the same as ours, that we're all just doing the same kind of thing. The original reasons why they do the certain things, they become aware of things, and for example, like you're saying, marketed for wider things, and they're sometimes it's insidious. But like what I'm saying is, we're all kind of people. But what I wanted to, the next part of this, I guess, is cultural appropriation. And what I wanted to say on cultural appropriation is, for me, I think, let me use a silly example. Food sets standard for what I think of culture, which is, culture is, for me, is basically, we are so diverse but the same as humans. And what that means is there are so many different but similar ways to figure out the different ways to live life, whether that's what we wear, how we communicate, language, food. That's culture to me, right? And I think that's beautiful. Yes, to understand the history and how that came about and why that way of living, eating, whatever it is, fit that context. I think it's such a nice story. However, for me, the most beautiful thing about culture is how it can kind of intertwine and stuff like that. So food does that. We have Asian food. We have people. Curry was an Anglo-Indian thing. Things that happen with spices between South America and Asia and things like that. Food sets a precedent. We all like variety, even though it's the same basic ingredients of meat and veg and spices or whatever else. And so different cultures bring something to it. So we live in these cosmopolitan places like London, we can have different things, not appropriation. So I want that same, and I'm not saying it's the exact same thing, but I want that same thing for all culture. Like, why can't music, clothing, whatever else be the way? And the only other thing I'll say, and this is quite a long rant, so you guys can take it from there, is that, like, why, because I have black skin, do I have any ownership over Jamaican culture versus people from the Congo, whatever? I don't own all their culture. Most people who say, like, I'm black so I can have a say on this, don't actually understand the culture. They say they know, it's just their black skin, they want fashion. People don't know why people wear kente cloth, but they say, oh, I can wear it. People don't know the history of the whole.
They're black, and no one will question them, because it's just like, they don't have to be Ghanaian to wear it. Like, people would wear it, and everyone would just be like, well, you go off.
The random black American who's lived in America for 200 years somehow is the same as me or my family who
versus lived in someone, a white person, who's lived and taught, let's say, in Ghana. And so wears it at a specific context, knowing that context. So for me, that's what fucks me up. It's like, I get if there's a specific thing that means something to a specific group of people, a specific person, that you are mistreating in such a way that it's directly going to be offensive about it. You know, there are certain way for religion, for example, there's certain things you need to do in terms of, like, if you're in a Turkey or whatever, wearing a headscarf if you're in Jn'l to respect the culture is respect, not culture appropriation.
Yeah. Or if you're in like some Asian cultures, when you come in, you've got to take off your shoes immediately, like standard. So yeah, no, I get what you mean completely. I think the problem sometimes lies, I feel like where people get frustrated the most is when you wear something from a culture and then claim it as your own, or claim it as, I made this cool, I made this trendy. And then when you think about hair more specifically, I think what frustrates a lot of Black women more is that my hair isn't acceptable in the workplace, but when you wear it, everyone thinks it's a vibe. And I mean, that might seem petty on a small scale, but it's actually in a way painful, because it's like, the workplace can't accept me like this, but you're cool to do it. And I think that can be challenging for a lot of people to
I was thinking about that the other day, and I was thinking, like, if I had a job right now, I'd actually have to take like my hair out. Like, I genuinely would have to take all the, except, like, I know for a fact that they would make me take my headband off, they make me take the accessories out, but like, I'm not going into work with just the plain old boring phrase that I'm not doing.
But surely that's a thing of, like, don't get me wrong. So for example, when I was at school, my mom, when I got a haircut, would always get me to have a haircut too. So I came into school and my tutor was like, pulled me to the side and was like, no, that's way too short. The rules say you've got to be smart, and what smart means is hair that does not below the collar, blah blah blah, in terms of like what would straight hair be, right? Because I was like one of the only Black people there, and so for me, cutting my hair, for my parents, cutting my hair to a 2 is smart. That's you cutting your hair to be smart. However, for them, it's like, for example, if a white person was to do it, it would look more sort of like a style or something that isn't smart.
Yeah.
So those things don't translate perfectly, and so those kind of disruptive conversation needs to happen. However, doesn't mean as Black people we shouldn't have to have some sort of being smart, whatever. It's just a different kind of thing. So for example, Louise, you having a bandana and things in your plaits, yeah, okay, well, there are white people that do things.
Yeah, honestly, I think people should be able to dye their hair and wear whatever.
There we go. That's not an issue of race. That's an issue of uniformity and how it's unnecessary in the workplace. However, white people have to do things they can't do on the weekend, or people who dyeing their hair says something about their sexuality, for example, it might do to them, can't do that in the workplace. People, you know what I mean? So you doesn't mean just because you're Black, you can attribute everything to something else to get what you want. You have to have uniformity. You know what I mean?
I think it's interesting because it's like, I get what you mean. Like everyone, I had this conversation with my mom as well. Like because she's a strong believer in like, you go to school to learn. So your hair, you need to pattern that thing. Like make it, you need to be in order.
I can't take it out every night. I can't redo it.
I think that's the challenge, that I think we as Black people a lot are very willing to do that extra, like stay up that extra hour, to put in that extra effort that other people wouldn't have to do. And sometimes it's a thing of like, do I have, like, is the way my hair grows out of my head so problematic that like I have to take this much time? So on the one hand, I get the idea of being smart, being uniform. I grew up like that. My mom was sitting down on Sunday evening and plait this hair all the way back, like the straight back braids. Like, yeah, that was me. Not the long cute extensions that everyone else got to have. Like, no. You to plait your hair, sit down so it's neat. Like even in, I don't know if you guys experience this in Ghana, but I know in Nigeria they have like set hairstyles in certain schools. So like in every 2 weeks they might say, okay, all the girls, your hair has to look like this. Like it has to all be braided straight back, no extensions, no different colors, it just has to be this way. So I grew up in the household of like, your hair needs to be smart. But I've also, as I've grown up, I've been saying and trying to get my mom to think about it as well. Like what is smart to us and what does smart mean to us? Why can't an afro be smart? And a lot of people can't explain it. I can't explain it to you. I would not go to a meeting with an afro. I wouldn't do it.
But also, I can't tie it up.
Okay.
I don't really want to do. Teeny as well, fucking hell.
let's say a white person was to go to that school in Nigeria, they will be under the same set of rules, right? So, for example,
they would, but it wouldn't even. I have a feeling like if they went and they said, okay, you all have to braid your hair all the way back, that's not going to be particularly possible for them. Do you get what I mean? So it's all under a context, right? It's all under this. These are the people we have in our environment, so these are the kind of rules you're going to make.
Yeah.
So if you're now in an environment where, I don't know if you guys saw what happened with Pimlico Academy, where you say, okay, your hair can't block the way of other students, it's like, but that's how the hair grows out of the, like, I understand obstructions, I get it, but we have to think about things as they are. Like, why we have to question why we think certain ways. Like, why, when I, to this day, doesn't matter how pro-black, doesn't matter how much I love my hair, if I see an afro in school, I'm like, guys, like, do we professionalism? Do you get what I mean? Even to this day, like, people can say they don't have that instinct. I'm even looking at my hair now. I can see that if there's one little flyaway coming out of place, I'm like, oh, it's like, is it really giving? So it's all ingrained in us. I think we need to question way more. We need to be way more critical of ourselves as to what we think is professional. Because I was saying it to my mom the other day. So let's say my sister's hairband fell out in school. Like, she had a puff and her hairband came off. And her white friend had long down hair and her hairband came off. There's no difference. It doesn't, like, none of them make a difference, but we all know who they're going to look at a certain type of way. Like, your hair's messy, your hair's, no, kids playing, these things happen. So I just feel like we have to be really critical of what we think is smart. And we have to do that work every day to undo what we believe is professionalism, or what we believe looks appropriate for the workplace, especially for black people.
I agree with you completely. And what I often think with racist issues is that it seems like if I engage them, I think racism is ubiquitous. I think so many of these issues that we're saying problematic are problematic. But what I like to look at is that what's the higher level thing from that. So, like, I think we're having all these important conversations, but only through the lens of race. Whereas I think it's also a conversation about uniformity, or, you know, in other intersections with other groups of people, or whatever.
Yeah, and what work looks like, what smart looks like. Yeah, completely.
Because that can affect so many different things. And I think, yes, it's okay that it might be catalyzed by race. Then let's have a wider conversation so it can transfer quicker, rather than like saying it has to be stuck in these conversations and these people can speak about it and stuff like that. Because then those aren't the people. We need the majority to do it. Like, when a person pats their hair, but they're not one person. Well, what we're saying here is white people. And because white people are the majority, it's what that really means is when the majority do something, then it's okay, rather than when white people do something, which is the same thing in our context in Britain and America. You see what I'm saying? So I think it's more the majority start doing something before it becomes something that we're used to, and then people aren't, what is that unknown thing? You see what I'm saying? So
fantastic.
It's more, we need to look at, like, okay, some of these issues of black people are socioeconomic. Some of these issues of white people are about being positions of majority and power. It's not necessarily the pigmentation. It's what else those things say about it.
I'm alongside with. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like we're coming to a close, guys.
Yeah, that was
such a good episode. I feel like we've unpacked a lot of great stuff.
Yeah, for sure. That was really good. I had fun, and we also got into some deep stuff. So that is always a good episode in my book.
So, yeah, thank you so much, guys, for like having me on. It's been a pleasure. I haven't spoken like this such a long time. Obviously, this will be coming up on my page as well. And
yeah, thanks for having us.
No problem, guys. All the fans, quote unquote, they will like. It's been a while since I dropped an episode, so I'm really, really excited that this is the first thing they're going to be kind of hearing back from me since February. So yeah, I just want to thank you guys so much. Make sure you guys, what's you guys like social media stuff so that people can go follow you?
Yeah, was it the Jn'l podcast on Instagram and TikTok, and then we'll put like the Spotify and YouTube below, because it's like a different, you have to spell it correctly to get there. It's annoying, but whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll put all links below and below. in the caption.
Every day we'll have your links obviously as well. So I don't know if you want to specify.
Yeah. So everyone is at Omonyes Corner on Twitter and Instagram. I think I should make a TikTok. I feel like I have the potential to be a TikTok star. Just saying.
See that.
I have the potential. So yeah, just follow me on there. That's where I put up all the like new episode stuff, interact with you guys on my stories so that you know what's happening in my life. I'm an active tweeter. No, not I'm a retweeter. I'm retweeting a liker. So check that out.
Yeah, we need to get Twitter. Maybe you can have us set up a Twitter because
you guys really should. I feel like that's where the discourse is at. I'm sorry to say, like Instagram is cute, but like Twitter's where the discourse is at.
Eat me alive.
I love that. I love it. I love it for me. So yeah, everyone just thank you so much for having me on, and it was just great to talk to you guys. And yeah, I don't know what else to say really.
Yeah, definitely. We'll do this again soon, one day, hopefully. And
for sure. I really enjoyed it.
Well, for now, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.